This is Kristin Rebecca from Columbia, Maryland, in the music room. Listen to a tale an old sailor told to me about his ship that wrecked. The only survivor was he. After they left dock, their journey seemed to be cursed. The endless crashing waves, the ship felt like a floating hearse. They heard a song on the wind. Listen to my call. If safety's what you seek, follow my voice to white sandy shores where you can rest in peace. Weary from the storm, they turned and followed her song. A trance was put on them. For this world they weren't meant for long. From the mist came rocks. Their jagged points loomed ahead. Too late to turn around. The hull crashed and was turned to shreds. They heard a song on the wind. Listen to my call. If safety's what you seek, follow my voice to white sandy shores where you can rest in peace. Quickly they went down, the waves pulled the men under, all but one of them drowned. Her song sang them to their slumber. If you're on a ship, if you're on a ship, and a storm starts to blow through, sail as fast as you can, or the siren will call you to. You'll hear a song on the wind. Listen to my call. If safety's what you seek, follow my voice to white sandy shores where you can rest in peace.
Beautiful. Welcome,
you.
Kristin. It's so good to have you here from my home state of Maryland. So I take it you've been touring, obviously, because
Yeah.
we'll talk about that more in the second half. But that was called Sirens Call. Tell us about that song and what motivated you to write that.
So Sirens Call came from my love of fantasy and the Greek myths, and several years ago I actually put out an album called Where Fairies Dwell, which was all about the folklore of Ireland because of my love for fantasy, and I had written a short little song for that, and I started thinking more and more about fantasy and folklore, and I thought, why don't I do another one? And so Sirens Call came about.
All right. Good imagination you have. The next song that you have is Wackos and Weirdos. Boy, we know a bunch of those.
I think everybody does.
Yeah. What made you write this? Just the observation of the world?
Well, in a sense, it had to do with a series of frustrating dates I went on.
Oh, okay.
And I came home and I was venting to my mom about how I didn't understand why I kept getting these weird guys, that I just wanted, some normal guy to go out with that lasted at least longer than one date where I didn't want to run screaming out of the room. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, well, you should write a song about it. And I said, okay. And I sort of sat down and this song came out.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's hear it.
Another day down, but not another win. Best part of the night was a goodbye. How do I end up with the wrong types? Why do I get the wackos and the weirdos, superhero wannabes, and those, it's all about me. Show-offs, control freaks, each one a disaster. Then I get another, how many can there be? First impressions can be very deceiving. Started out so well, perfect in every way, but the facade fades so quickly. Then I see him for his true self. Why do I get the wackos and the weirdos, superhero wannabes, and those, it's all about me. Show-offs, control freaks, each one a disaster. Then I get another, how many can there be? First impressions can be very deceiving. Started out so well, perfect in every way, but the facade fades so quickly. Then I see him for his true self. Why do I get the wackos and the weirdos, superhero wannabes, and those, it's all about me. Show-offs, control freaks, each one a disaster. Then I get another, how many can there be? Picky's not the problem, options are the issue. Just how many more will I have to get through until the right one finally walks in? Then all these nights can come to an end. Why do I get the wackos and the weirdos, superhero wannabes, and those, it's all about me. Show-offs, control freaks, each one a disaster. Then I get another, how many can there be? Why do I get the wackos and the weirdos, superhero wannabes, and those, it's all about me. Show-offs, control freaks, each one a disaster. Then I get another, how many can there be? How many can there be? How many can there be?
Yes, unfortunately, you have to kiss a lot of toads to find that Prince Charming, don't you?
Yeah.
You have another song. It's called Let Him Go.
Yeah, the story behind Let Him Go was a friend of mine was engaged, and she went one day to the office where her fiancé worked, and she found that he was what she thought was sort of flirting with another woman, and she sort of let it go at the time. He sort of kept it back of her mind, but more and more often she was finding this guy was spending time with this woman, seemed to be much friendlier than friends, so to speak. And so she finally said, would you, this is making me uncomfortable. Would you distance yourself? And he said, I'm not distancing myself. You're going to have to get over it. And she didn't really know what to do because she loved this man. And so I wrote this song called Let Him Go.
Yay.
He stays with you out of honor, even though he loves another. Keeping him will never bring back a love you once shared. I know it tears you up inside, and you cry yourself to sleep at night. It's not worth forcing him to stay when you will never get your love back, so let him go. His gaze goes far away, words are few between you. Is it really worth the pain you put yourself through? I know it tears you up inside, and you cry yourself to sleep at night. It's not worth forcing him to stay when you will never get your love back, so let him go. Fearing you will be alone, that is why you keep him. Listen to me when I tell you, love will come again. I know it tears you up inside, and you cry yourself to sleep at night. It's not worth forcing him to stay when you will never get your love back, so let him go. Just let him go. Please let him go.
Well, did she?
Yes.
Yay.
And she ended up happily married with another guy. And
Oh,
actually,
good.
her ex-fiance ran off with the woman he was flirting with.
Of course. Yeah.
You got a song coming up called A Night in Santa Monica.
Yes.
Now, I've been to Santa Monica a number of times. I've spent a few nights there. But tell me about this song and your night there.
So Night in Santa Monica was originally called Night in Atlantic City. I had initially written it for a songwriting contest in New Jersey. They have a New Jersey Folk Festival, and they did, I don't know if they still do, but they did have a songwriting contest, and if you won, you would get to play there. And I was noticing in the fine print it said, if you write a song about New Jersey, you're more likely to win. And so I sat there trying to figure out what on earth I was going to write about New Jersey, because I didn't know the state very well. And I was like, oh, I know Atlantic City is there. So I quickly wrote this song, and I submitted it. I didn't win, but I was creating my new album, Tales, Trials, Truce, at the time. And I submitted it to my co-producer, and he said, I like this song. And no offense to anyone from New Jersey, but he said, could you think of a more romantic city to put in this song than Atlantic City? And so Night in Santa Monica came out.
It has to do with syllables sometimes.
Yes,
too, the
it
way you
does.
say
Yeah.
things, you know.
Exactly.
So, well, I'd like to hear that song if you'd share it with us.
What guitar are you playing there? What brand?
This is a Northwood.
It's really pretty.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. It called to me when I was visiting Carter's one day. The summer I left home, a picture perfect memory. Carefree days spent falling in love, 3 months full of young romance. our spotlight, the city our stage. We danced on the beach to the crash of the waves. That night in Santa Monica, a night in Santa Monica. Meeting as the sunset, walking down the shore hand in hand, gentle kissing out on the pier, whispered this could last for years. The moon was our spotlight, the city our stage. We danced on the beach to the crash of the waves. That night in Santa Monica, a night in Santa Monica. Arms entwined as we rise, Pacific we'll reach the sky. Our dreams were a guide to the stars. Anything was possible. The moon was our spotlight, the city our stage. We danced on the beach to the crash of the waves. That night in Santa Monica, a night in Santa Monica. When the moon was our spotlight, the city our stage. We danced on the beach to the crash of the waves. That night in Santa Monica, a night in Santa Monica. Thank you.
You know, something you can do in Santa Monica is your next song. You can sail away.
Yeah.
So tell us about that one.
So Sail Away was written actually when I was visiting Savannah, Georgia.
One of my favorite towns on the planet.
And we went on this historic bus tour, you know, like the double-decker buses where they point out as you drive along, like, this famous person lived here, this famous person died over there. And and these really tall 4-story houses had this balcony on the top. And our tour guide casually points up to one and said, "So that's called a widow's walk," and then proceeded to not explain anything else about it. And coming from Maryland, we don't have those, so I thought maybe, you know, wives decided that they were done being married and would go up there and just shove their husbands over the top or something like that. I didn't know.
That sounds like a good idea.
A new murder ballad by Kristin Rebecca.
And so I pulled her aside and I said, "Why do you call them? Why were they called that?" And she said, "Well, a lot of the women back in the day were married to sailors, and as the men would go out to sea, they could actually see the ships coming over the horizon from these balconies. And they would wait and watch, and a lot of times the ships wouldn't come back, so they were called widow's walks." And a little later on in the day, we went to this arts district, and I bought this painting of a woman who's in old-fashioned clothing with old-fashioned hair. And you can't see her face, but something about the picture looks really sad. And she's standing, looking out on a balcony. And
At the sea?
Yeah, at the sea.
And you know, those balconies you're talking about are over 300 years old.
Yeah.
Some of the oldest buildings in the country.
Yeah.
They just don't make them like they used to, do
I
they?
tell you, they're still there, aren't they?
Yeah, they're still there.
They're
People
still
are
there.
still walking on them.
Wow.
And so I thought, you know, what would happen if this woman in this picture had a fight with her loved one right before he went off, and so she's waiting and waiting to come back for him to apologize, and she doesn't know if he will. So that's what the song Sail Away is about. Blue moon glowing in the night, shining off the water, lapping on the shore, sleepless nights watching the ocean, hoping to catch a ship on the horizon. You said you found the answer to make our dreams come true. You would sail away for a year or two. light was on that day. Words said in anger never truly meant, telling me there's nothing for you. Then you left without ever looking back. You said you found the answer to make our dreams come true. You would sail away for a year or two. Wait for me, you said. I couldn't say yes. When you disappeared from view, then I knew how deeply I loved you, regretting not waiting for you. Now that's all I'll ever do. You said you found the answer to make our dreams come true. You would sail away for a year or two. Wait for me, you said. I couldn't say yes. Pacing on the widow's walk, all my prayers and tears swept up in passing winds, carrying my words off to you, hoping they'll bring you back to me again. You said you found the answers to make our dreams come true. You would sail away for a year or two. Wait for me, you said.
I find myself can get mesmerized watching you play because I can't make my guitar sound like
That's an amazing instrument.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and those are all tuning pegs up top, and
Yeah.
you move it. Yeah.
Now, are you
Wow.
sometimes are you plucking 2 and 3 strings at the same time sometimes?
Yeah, and yeah.
So that's how you're getting your minors and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times, for my playing, it's, I'm plucking several strings at once.
So I'm
and
hearing
then
like the
Uh-huh.
rainfall pattern, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like the
Uh-huh.
but on the more treble strings. But
I know that
I
we're
really like
supposed
this,
to
really
talk
pretty.
more about the songs during this time, but I've just got to ask, what made you decide on this instrument?
So this is a really random story. I didn't grow up with harp in my life at all. I did get a little exposure to it through the Marx Brothers films, but hysterically enough, that part I always thought was boring and would
Yeah.
and would fast forward when I was little.
Yeah.
But I had picked up the guitar, and we were in this music store one day in Minnesota called Growth Music, and they actually sell harps there. They have them out for sale. They have the Celtic harps out for sale, and I walked over to this group of harps. I didn't even know what it was because I'd always seen the big orchestral harps,
Right.
so I didn't know that this was a harp at the time. And I walked over and I just plucked a string, and I went to my mom, I want to play that.
Oh, wow.
well, I think you play it well, and
Yeah.
it's very the marriage of the two of you is really nice.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
You know, I just find it fascinating because I was trying to pick up what you were doing, not knowing a damn thing about what you were doing. So it was just like, well, it was mesmerizing to me.
Yeah,
Anyway,
that circle of fists is a
yeah,
little confusing.
yeah,
I know,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
Circle of fists doesn't look the same on a harp. So yeah.
You have another song called Horseshoe.
Yes, so
Tell
it's,
us about that.
I put these two songs back to get back on purpose in this set because they're both what I'd like to call songs from the past. And so Horseshoe actually came from a trip I took to Arizona, and I visited Boot Hill Cemetery. And I don't know if you guys have been or you're the listeners have been. Yeah, but they get really creative with their epitaphs in Boot Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like one says killed because of the color of his shirt.
Oh, wow.
And it turned out he, at least the story I read online that's supposedly historically accurate, I tried to verify it,
Yeah.
said that he walked into the bar saloon one day with a purple shirt on, and that was not deemed a manly color, and he decided they were going to take it outside, and he was the slower of the draw of the people he picked a fight with. Another was a tombstone that said, "Here lies less more," shot 4 times by a 44,
Yeah.
no less, no more.
No less, no more. That's right. Yeah, and there's some creative ones up in Dodge City, Kansas,
Yes.
too. Up there in the cemetery too. Yeah, that was a cool thing. I got to ask you one quick question too, and then we're going to go on to your next tune. Have you always geared your vocal and your style toward the Celtic?
It's actually sort of a combination. So when I studied voice in college, which you have a choice between jazz or classical, and so I was trained classically. But I was also in a Celtic band growing up with my parents, so it's sort of a combination of the two.
I don't see how you could separate it from me. I can't imagine you singing "Knock on Wood" or something like that. But anyway,
Hey, she might be able to put a new spin on it.
She could definitely do that.
That's right.
Or a new pluck on it.
Let her play Horseshoe for us.
Hush, Randy.
Hush, Randy.
Well, Horseshoe comes from one of the tombstones I didn't talk about, and that one said, "Here lies George Johnson hung by mistake." And it said, "He was right and we was wrong. We strung him up and now he's gone." And they actually left a little horseshoe nailed to where his head would be on the grave, on the tombstone.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I guess, to give him luck in the afterlife.
Oh, okay.
And poor George, though, I went back several years later, and the horseshoe was missing.
Somebody stole the horseshoe?
I guess so.
Oh, man.
So George wasn't lucky, I guess, in life or death. But this was a little song I wrote about what might have happened to George that day. It turns out he was accused of horse rustling. And what happened was he'd accidentally bought a stolen horse and didn't realize it. It was on a misty morning day. They rode up and took George away. Didn't listen to his cries, oh please. Only one thought was on their mind. A hanging's what there'd be tonight. They strung him up and cut him down, found out what he said was true. The deed was done, the price was paid. There was nothing they could do but leave a horseshoe on his grave to give him luck along the way. Found guilty before his trial came. There was nothing else left to say. Yelled his innocence out anyways. The words hung empty in the air as he was dragged into the street. They strung him up and cut him down, found out what he said was true. The deed was done, the price was paid. There was nothing they could do but leave a horseshoe on his grave to give him luck along the way. Last rites were said, the hood put on. A blameless heart, it beat its last. Another confessed to the crime. They strung him up and cut him down, found out what he said was true. The deed was done, the price was paid. There was nothing they could do but leave a horseshoe on his grave to give him luck along the way. They strung him up and cut him down, found out what he said was true. The deed was done, the price was paid. There was nothing they could do but leave a horseshoe on his grave to give him luck along the way.
It's interesting what inspires songwriters, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. If you need water, go for it. You're allowed to drink on this show.
Yes, yes. And tell us about Reach for the Sky.
So Reach for the Sky was a song I wrote after going to the 4th of July fireworks near my house. They're down by a lakefront, and they host it every year. And one year I just went down and decided I'd, brave the lines. And
in Maryland?
Yeah, it's all in this area of Columbia where I live, and it just gets really packed even for a smallish city like Columbia. But so this guy standing next to me, I was looking at him because he just seemed really tall out of the corner of my eyes, and I realized he wasn't really tall. It was actually him, and then he had a little boy on his shoulders. And I noticed that every time a firework went off, the little boy would stretch out his arms and try to grab it right out of the sky. And he did this for the entire 45 minutes of the fireworks. Wow. He was just so determined to catch this firework and bring it home, I guess. And I thought, how many times in our lives do we go for something that's slightly out of our reach? And I wrote the song Reach for the Sky. Watching each firework high in the sky, each one bursting with color and life. Before he could grab one, it faded away, but he would try to reach for the sky, reach for the sky, reach for your dreams. Never look back, no matter what life may bring, 'cause if you try, you'll reach the sky. Stretching his arm out as far as he could, longing to feel his heart's simple wish. Finally catch one and hold in his hands, so he would try to reach for the sky. Reach for the sky, reach for your dreams. Never look back, no matter what life may bring, 'cause if you try, you'll reach the sky. Times in your life when you just seem to fail, sky seems so far, your dreams seem so frail. Keep looking forward and never look back, 'cause then you try to reach for the sky. Reach for the sky, reach for your dreams. Never look back, no matter what life may bring, 'cause if you try, you'll reach sky. Try after try, his hands finally reached. Fingers clasped round what once was a dream. What once was far is now his to keep, because he tried to reach for the sky, reach for the sky, reach for your dreams. Never look back, no matter what life may bring, 'cause if you try, you'll reach the sky.
Nice, very nice. You've got a song called
Field Mouse's Ball.
Field Mouse's Ball. This, tell us what this is. I'm not even going to do it.
So this is a traditional Irish song, and it's about.
It had to be.
Yeah.
Spell me out. Thank you.
And it's off of my album Where Fairies Dwell. It's actually the opening track to it, and I discovered it through an Irish singer, and it's about a little field mouse who has a birthday ball. The field mouse gave a birthday ball and asked her neighbors one and all. She held it in a splendid hole, kindly lent by Mr. Mole. There was no end to nuts and roots, berries red and candy fruits. Juicy leaves were on to sup, and dewdrops in an acorn cup. Said Mr. Heron to his wife, I've never yet in all my life received a letter small and pink. What is it now, who do you think? Said Mrs. Hare, it comes to call, it's both unto Miss Mouse's ball. Lift up your coat and your tail so brown, and I will wear my evening gown. Miss Frog was splashing in a pond, of which she was extremely fond. When she heard this joyful news, she soon hopped up and changed her shoes. That night they danced on the sandy floor, never had such a night before. Not one of them had a growl or grouse, they thanked the mole for the use of his house. The field mouse gave a birthday ball and asked her neighbors one and all. She held it in a splendid hole, kindly lent by Mr. Mole. There was no end to nuts and roots, berries red and candy fruits. Juicy leaves were on to sup, and dewdrops in an acorn cup.
So, how long has a traditional song like that been around? Do you
That
know?
one I'm speculating is actually more 1800s, but I'm not quite sure. I mean, I haven't, there wasn't too much info on it when I looked around other than it was traditional. Not too many people have covered that particular one.
The
Yeah.
seasons change, I guess, never changes, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your next song is Tears from the Sky.
So that song came to me actually one day when I was walking and a little rain shower happened, like one that you can walk in, not one where you want to just run in out of cover.
Right.
And I was thinking in life about how much people go through in life, how much pain, how much trauma, and sometimes it can just seem like it's just carved into our skin for the world to see. But the drops reminded me of tears and how things become new and clean again, and so how things happen to us, but we don't have to necessarily let it define us.
Very good. Yeah.
Like tears from the sky, pour all around me, erasing my pain, erasing the stains. My life is new again. They say the past is the past and the future is bright. It's hard to see that in everyday life. I want to run away into the coming storm, like tears from the sky, pour all around me, erasing my pain, erasing the stains. My life is new again. Words and deeds weigh heavily and go round in my mind. I feel the drop shower over my skin, cleansing marks left behind, healing my unseen scars, like tears from the sky, pour all around me, erasing my pain, erasing the stains. My life is new again. Feels like each painful act is written on my skin. There's calm in the storm. The rain becomes my tears, making me clean, like tears from the sky, pour all around me, erasing my pain, erasing the stains. My life is new again, like tears from the sky, pour all around me, erasing my pain, erasing the stains. My life is new again. My life is new again.
You have a very sweet life perspective. I was just making notes here, sharing it with Helen about my thoughts on you. And you got a song that you're going to take us out of the show with tonight, of this part of the show, called "Heartbeat of Life," and I'm very interested in that. But I'm also just I've got to say, the thing that songwriters need to remember, and I'm talking to everybody out there, is it be specific and you'll mean something, and that's what this girl's done. She's specific in who she's shooting at, and she goes right for the heart and does it real well.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, take us out with that and tell us about that song.
Heartbeat of Life was a song I wrote about just a reminder for myself that even the smallest actions we do can have the biggest impact on people. And so it's just remembering that we as people are the heartbeat of life. Waking up to the mundane, every day it's the same. Same route, same routine, passing by, saying hi. No one looks my way, nothing seems to ever change. The pulse is in the steps we take, the will breeze by the differences we make. I come alive when I realize we're the heartbeat of life, heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of starts to feel the gray, waking from my trance today. New path, new purpose, ready to go. I'm aglow, looking around me, endless possibilities. The pulse is in the steps we take, the will breeze by the differences we make. I come alive when I realize we're the heartbeat of life, heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of life. When my life seems frozen, others passing me by, feeling trapped in the day-to-day, I remember the pulse is in the steps we take, the will breeze by the differences we make. I come alive when I realize we're the heartbeat of life, heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of life. We're the heartbeat of life, heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of life. We're the heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of life. We're the heartbeat of life, heartbeat of life, the heartbeat of life. We're the heartbeat of life. Yeah.
I sure do want to thank you and your dad for journeying down here from Maryland to Waxahachie
Well, thanks for having
to
us.
see us tonight. And Helen, one of the cool things about what we do is we get to hear a lot of different kinds of songwriters.
We do.
The contrast between tonight and tomorrow night for those of our listeners will be great. The Kerosene Drifters will be with us tomorrow night from Sherman, Texas, and their soulful, earthy sound. After this it'll be such a neat contrast. And so I'm looking forward to seeing those guys. I'm glad you're here tonight.
Absolutely. I also want to thank our photographers, Gene and Barbara Moore, that are getting your pretty pictures that are going to be up on the website and on YouTube.
Bruce tonight. He had to bid his job tonight. So.
And I also want to thank Reno back there for his engineering, and our studio audience visitors, and you out there in Facebook land. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. The artists appreciate it. Keep tuning in to In the Music Room.